When we think of some of the best cities to play in, oftentimes the concept involves diehard fans, an organization with some direction, weather that doesn't suck, and financial incentives. I'll get to those later. But on the flip side, there's a handful of cities that players dread being traded to. Usually, they're going to be cities with little to no winning culture, terrible weather, and invisible signs that say turn back and run. So let's take a quick visit to the worst cities to move to in the NHL. And while the Red Wings did have a dynasty that's still relatively recent, the team is and has been in rebuilding mode for longer than a hot minute. And sure, the fans are great, as the Wings ranked 5th last season alone as far as attendance. But the fans are about the only good thing that's going on in the city. I mean, really, who wants to say they play at Little Caesars Arena? Like,
Pizza, pizza.
it just sounds cheap. And while the cost of living isn't super high here, I wonder why, the crime rate is, as Detroit has the second highest crime rate in the nation, which if you're wanting to raise a family, it isn't the best statistic to hear. The weather also sucks. For example, every winter you can expect it to snow on average for 36 days, and receive an average of 47 inches annually, so if you're looking for beach weather here, you should get packing. When looking for an incentive to move to Buffalo, New York, really is there any? I mean, sure, they do have some talent on the current roster with Skinner, Dahlin, and Eichel, but honestly, that's about all there is. High income tax rates? Yep, as New York has the 9th highest income tax rate in the nation. Horrible weather? You guessed it, as Buffalo on average receives over 94 inches of snow every winter. So if you're planning to move here, you might want to invest in a snowmobile or two, just saying. Fans here are terrible on attendance, but they're not the best either, as the Sabres were mid-grade last year while ranking 16th for attendance. So if you're not afraid of the cold and missing the playoffs every year, this is definitely your place to be. So I want you to take a minute and imagine what a barren wasteland looks like, 'cause that's exactly what you're gonna see every day if you move here. For starters, it's a city with under 1 million people, so it's not the biggest. Therefore, if you're looking for a place to party, you've come to the wrong destination. Besides the fact you'll be feeling extremely isolated, as a neighboring city, which means anything, is like 7 hours away, the weather is also terrible. Why, you ask? Well, for starters, the average temperature for the month of January alone is 2.5 degrees Fahrenheit. Yikes. Mix that with an average of 20 inches of snow a year and not seeing grass for an average of 132 days of one, you've got yourself a grade A snowpocalypse on your hands, if you don't lose them from frostbite. As out of Canada's 100 largest cities, Winnipeg is the 10th coldest. Also, a smaller town and arena is going to mean lesser fans, as the Jets had the 7th lowest attendance ranking in the league last season. Well, I guess it could be worse, as Arizona is obviously not the worst team to play for, but they're pretty darn close to it. Just ask the fans. As Arizona has been struggling for years just to fill their seats, with the 3rd worst attendance rating last season alone. Playoffs? What's that again? Honestly, I'm not sure if the fans even know anymore, as it's been 7 years since the teams even had a sniff. If you're wanting to avoid the cold, though, this is definitely your place to be, as snow in Arizona is pretty much unheard of. But 100 plus temperatures aren't, as during the month of July, for instance, the average temperature alone is 107 degrees Fahrenheit. And rain is pretty much like winning here, non-existent, as on average in Scottsdale it rains 11 inches per year. Plus, your arena really isn't in the city at all, as it's a good half-an-hour drive outside of the state's capital. Since no one really wants to live here, though, the cost of living is low. There's that, but that's pretty much about it. So let's just say there's a reason why players lately have been signing super short contracts, because no one really wants to be here. Let's see, bad team, bad management, fifth worst fan attendance, playing in Ottawa is getting the works of all the worst incentives. Weather is another, unless you love lots of snow and below freezing temperatures. For about 115 days on average a year, the ground is completely snow covered, and typically, it's snowing 52 days annually, which is roughly a seventh of a year. I mean, if you don't feel like listening to me, just take the 7 players' word for it, including Matt Duchene's, who blasted the organization and gave them a bad rep on video.
As you would probably guess, our PK's near the bottom of the league right now.
And as if it couldn't get any worse, the arena itself, similarly to Gila River Arena, is a good 20-minute drive from the city, in the middle of the suburbs. Trust me, my extended family literally lives across the street, and I'm hoping they can forgive me right now. I'm sorry for dissing your team. Anyways, on that note, time to end this rampage.